He's brash, he's loud, he has a populist streak, he has a wild head of hair, and he's the most important political figure in his country. Donald Trump? No, I'm talking about Boris Johnson of Great Britain. Joining us now with some insights about Johnson is Professor Andrew Taylor, political scientist at North Carolina State University. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
Before we get into Boris Johnson, we should point out that what happens in the politics of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is especially important to you, not just as a political scientist, but this is home.
Yes, that's where I'm from originally, and still keep up with British politics quite a lot. I like to read about it, write about it, talk about it, and follow it pretty closely.
And you were recently in Britain and had a first-hand look at how things were going there. What were people talking about politically?
Yeah, so I was just over doing a little bit of work, a little bit of vacationing, seeing family and what have you, and everybody was talking about Brexit. I mean, just it completely dominates all kinds of conversation about things political. People don't like talking about it because they are, to be honest with you, they're up to there with it because it's just dominated public discourse. But when you nudge them and push them to talk about politics, they'll talk about that. Even more so than the sort of Conservative leadership race that you were alluding to, and now the new Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That leadership race has been going on really all summer since former Prime Minister Theresa May said she was going to step down. But even with that going on, which you would think would interest people, it's been Brexit, Brexit, Brexit.
And the two are tied together. Boris Johnson is prime minister largely because of what's happened with Brexit.
Yes, so Johnson has a long sort of backstory, but his sort of recent propulsion to the top of the tree, so to speak, has been based upon his very loud and strong support of the Leave campaign during the referendum in 2016. So he was one of the most prominent Conservatives who was saying we need to get out. And that, of course, happened. The vote was to leave in June of 2016. Johnson was then appointed as Foreign Secretary, actually, by Theresa May, who came in as Prime Minister after the referendum. But he had a big falling out with her. Said she was going nowhere with her effort to get a negotiated departure from the EU with this deal that she got with the European Union, and then, of course, couldn't get through the House of Commons. She tried 3 times, she failed. That led to her resignation. Johnson, very popular with the Conservative Party grassroots, has now become the leader of the Conservative Party, and since the Conservative Party is the governing party at the moment, albeit in a coalition in British Parliament, he's a Prime Minister.
We've heard him described by some people as sort of a British Trump, and not just because of the crazy hair and the other things about
including you, by the way,
the populist streak. Is that a fair characterization, or is he a very different sort of fellow?
Yeah, I think it's half and half. Like anything, he's not a perfect facsimile, but there are some clear commonalities. Not just the appearance, as you said, but the sort of populist streak, his sort of reputation as a disruptor. These are things that he has in common with Trump. In terms of sort of policy, and I think this has more to do with where the British Conservative Party is compared to the US Republican Party, he's much more much more liberal on social policy than Trump. And that really anybody in the sort of leadership of the Republican Party is. He likes to consider himself an incredible environmentalist, for example. He's very sort of libertarian on social policies that would in the U.S. Republican Party, for example, he'd be real pro-choice on abortion, which is a difficult position to have amongst Republican leadership these days. So there are some significant differences, but you mentioned the commonalities in there as well. And this sort of Brexit populism took place at the same time, of course, that Trump was being nominated by the Republican Party and then became president of the United States.
We are chatting with Professor Andrew Taylor of NC State University. Sticking with the theme of Boris Johnson and what he believes, you mentioned the more socially liberal than you would expect among a Republican. How about in terms of Taxes, trade,
Yeah,
economics, where does he
he
stand?
very much would be there as a conventional Republican in 2019 in the U.S. So one of the things that sort of propels this idea of Brexit is that the EU, not only is the EU sort of controlling its member countries from Brussels, so there's this argument about sovereignty and democracy, but it just piles on regulation after regulation. It spends money frivolously. It doesn't tax, but it causes member nations to have to hike up their revenues in order to be able to pay all of these subsidies. And so one of the major reasons of getting out of the European Union is so that Britain can be a kind of low tax, low regulation, sovereign, autonomous entity. And that I think it's those kinds of issues that make Johnson appealing to many American conservatives and Republicans.
One of the interesting things about Boris Johnson is that before becoming a politician, he was well known as a writer.
Yes.
And the only thing that he's of length that he's written that I've read was a biography of Winston Churchill.
Yes, a fairly recent one, yes.
And I remember that after reading that I thought that this tells me a little bit about Churchill. It tells me a lot about why Boris Johnson liked Churchill.
Yeah.
Does he see himself as a sort of a Churchillian figure?
He does like to do that. And in fact, some of the sort of wackiness and craziness and some of the strange things related to his personal life, which has been pretty tumultuous, and several marriages and even a very recent, highly publicized bust up with a longtime girlfriend, which got the headlines during the leadership battle. Those things sort of make people think that he has sort of stuff in common with Churchill. I think you can stretch the comparison a little bit too far, but nevertheless, he likes to think of himself in those sort of Churchillian or even sort of Thatcherian analogies. He likes to sort of play those kinds of things up. But Johnson also, you talk about him as a writer, Mitch, but he was a politician and he ran London for 8 years, right? Which is a pretty considerable feat. I know it's not helping Bill de Blasio very much in the Democratic nomination contest at the moment as being the mayor of the country's largest city for now in his second term, but it certainly is an important part of a politician's resume, something like that. And he was an MP as well and a cabinet minister. So there's much more substance, political substance. Johnson universally thought of as very smart. But there's much more to him than that. He has real political experience as well.
From your vantage point, how will someone like Boris Johnson tackle this Brexit issue, which is so important right now?
Well, obviously his opponents are saying, oh my gosh, he's driving us off a cliff. There's clearly going to be a no-deal Brexit. The economy is going to go into deep recession. It's going to be a complete disaster. But one of the things that people think that Johnson might help Johnson in this situation, even though he has said, I'm kind of willing to live with a no-deal Brexit, is his inconsistency and his unpredictability. This is something that's kind of Trumpian as well, that he likes to make deals in ways that seem inconsistent with positions he's taken in the past or with relationships that he has with people. He'll make deals with supposed adversaries. And so he might bring that to these Brexit negotiations with the European Union, and perhaps be able to kind of pull out a Hail Mary pass and get some kind of great deal for the UK while the UK gets out of the European Union. That's what some people think may happen. Of course, we'll see, but there is something to his unpredictability that gives some people hope that who want to get out, but want to get out with a deal, that he might be able to pull it off. Even though the European Union's minister on Brexit, Michel Barnier, are all saying, that was the deal. We gave you the deal. We gave it to Prime Minister May. You guys couldn't agree on it. That's it. There's no other deal.
My guess is whatever happens, Boris Johnson is probably going to be the most interesting prime minister that Britain has had in years.
Oh, yes. Much. It's hard, with all due respect to Prime Minister May, it's hard to be less colourful than she was. She was known as the robot. And he is certainly different in that way, for better or for worse. One of the other things that's interesting, though, is that, of course, I mentioned this earlier on, that this is a coalition government, so it's a Conservative minority government. There's a Northern Irish Unionist Party that's giving enough seats, enough votes for that to be a majority. But it's a very, very slim one. And some people believe that, Johnson, in order to be able to really get power, is going to need to have an election to legitimize his prime ministership and to give the Conservatives actually a buffer in governing. And of course, we'll see what happens with that. But he probably needs to go there, and that will either make him a lot stronger and perhaps a prime minister for a very long time, or it might make him a very short-lived prime minister.